Usually when we talk about a historical monument or an ancient religious site, there's this expectation of it being, I don't know, a static time capsule. You know,
Yeah.
you walk in, you look at some dusty artifacts behind a velvet rope, you read a little brass plaque, and you leave.
Right, right. It's a very passive experience. Like you're strictly an observer. You're kept at this very safe, sterile distance from the past, just there to consume data.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But if you step into the world of a Japanese Shinto shrine, that museum glass completely shatters. It's not just sitting there. It's actively asking you to participate,
Yeah, you aren't just looking at history. You are stepping into this 1,300-year-old psychological blueprint for mental clarity.
which is wild. So welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to unpack the psychology, the history, and the profound philosophy woven into a Shinto shrine. We have this fascinating guide document detailing the history and rituals of Hukoku Shrine in Osaka.
And it is fascinating because while the modern world just constantly bombards us with information, this shrine offers this incredible ancient blueprint for mindfulness. And it's all rooted in Japanese mythology, from ancient texts called the Kojiki.
So whether you're a massive history buff or, honestly, just someone looking for a way to cut through your daily mental clutter, taking this virtual walk through the shrine with us today is going to give you some major aha moments.
Definitely. And paradoxically, this incredibly peaceful, mindful experience we're exploring today starts with a man who lived a life of total chaos, ambition, and warfare.
Yeah, the ultimate underdog story. The shrine is dedicated to Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And this guy, I mean, his story is essentially the 16th century equivalent of starting in the mailroom and ending up owning the entire global conglomerate.
That is a perfect parallel. In Japanese culture, Hideyoshi is the ultimate symbol of Risshin which basically translates to success in life or, rising in the world.
Because he literally started from the bottom, right?
Oh, completely. He was born into a humble peasant family during the Sengoku period, which was the Warring States period. So we're talking about an era of constant, brutal civil war.
Right.
He totally lacked wealth. He had no status, no powerful family name.
Just a regular guy in the middle of chaos.
Exactly. Yet, through sheer strategic brilliance, he became the very first shogun to unite all of Japan.
And he's the visionary who built the original Osaka Castle, too, which totally transformed the economic landscape of the country. He basically dragged Japan into this wildly prosperous era of trade and commerce.
He did, and because he was this ultimate warlord, the text points out he's closely associated with iconic samurai swords, specifically the long katana and the shorter wakizashi.
Right, and those swords weren't just weapons, were they?
No, not at all. They're crucial to understanding the psychology of the era. In the warrior class, the swords were considered the literal soul of the samurai. The katana represented outward martial power, the ability to strike.
Right, projecting force.
Yeah, but the wakizashi, the shorter blade that they kept close to the body at all times, that represented personal honor and intense inner spirit. So Hideyoshi had to master both. He needed massive outward force, but also the intense inner discipline to wield it without, well, destroying himself.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I have to push back here. If Hideyoshi was a fiercely ambitious warlord who violently united Japan, how does a shrine dedicated to him cultivate peaceful mindfulness?
It sounds like a total contradiction, I know.
Right. Like, how does a 16th century historical underdog connect to a Shinto tradition that dates back over 1,300 years to the Kojiki?
Yeah.
Why honor a mortal warlord as if he's a mythological deity?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where Shinto differs wildly from Western religious frameworks. Shinto doesn't really draw a hard, impenetrable line between the mythology of the gods and the extraordinary potential of human beings.
Oh, interesting. So it's more fluid.
Very fluid. Shinto shrines very often honor extraordinary individuals alongside ancient mythologies. Hideyoshi's elevation reflects the Shinto appreciation for human endeavor. They aren't worshiping the violence of his life, they're preserving the energy of his success.
Oh, that makes sense. Because he brought unification and prosperity to everyday people.
Exactly. By dedicating a shrine to him, the culture captures the essence of his leadership and drive. They turn it into a sacred energy that everyday visitors can tap into for their own lives.
I love that. You're honoring the absolute pinnacle of human potential. But that brings up a really interesting physical challenge.
How so?
Well, you have this incredibly intense secular energy, the warlord's ambition, the chaos of the 16th century, or frankly, just the sheer noise of our own modern morning commute that you bring with you. How do you physically and mentally transition from that chaos into a quiet, sacred space?
Oh, that transition is engineered the exact second you step across the property line.
With the Torii Gate, right?
Yep, the very first thing you encounter is the Torii Gate. We instantly recognize them, those towering archways, usually painted a vibrant vermilion. But they aren't just decorative architecture. The torii marks the exact boundary separating the secular world from the sacred space.
So it's a hard line drawn in the sand.
A very hard line. It's almost like a technological tool for the mind. Think about how much we struggle with boundaries today. We bring our phones to bed, we check emails at the dinner table.
Well, totally guilty of that.
Right. The secular world just bleeds into everything. So the torii is a physical intervention. And before you walk through it, you are required to stop and bow.
And that bow physically does something to you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a polite nod.
It forces a physiological shift. When you bow, you're consciously breaking your forward momentum. You have to stop walking, lower your head, and physically acknowledge that you are leaving one state of being and entering another.
You literally cannot rush a bow.
No, you can't.
Think about how you and I transition from our workday to our family time.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you just slam your laptop shut, walk into the kitchen, and start cooking dinner. You carry all that secular baggage right into the next room.
Exactly. There's no buffer.
Right. But the shrine is telling us we need a ritual buffer zone. We need to physically leave the noise behind. And right after you cross under the torii, you hit the next layer of the filter, which is the chizuya.
A water purification pavilion.
Yeah. You grab this wooden dipper, pour water over your left hand, then your right, and then you rinse your mouth. But I'm curious, is the chizuya basically an ancient hand sanitizing station? Or is it something deeper, like a mental palate cleanser?
It is entirely about the nervous system. This act of washing is rooted in a much older, intense practice called misogi. Historically, formal prayers in Shinto often required a person to wade directly into a nearby river, usually freezing cold mountain streams, for a full-body cleansing.
Wait, wading into a freezing river before you pray, that is a serious commitment to getting in the zone.
It's a massive shock to the system. And this unique tradition is an important part of everyday life in Japan. The modern Chizuya Pavilion is basically a more accessible, everyday version of that ancient river ritual.
It's so practical but profound.
Yeah, think about the neurology of it. When cold water hits the sensitive skin of your hands and your mouth, your brain is forced out of its default mode network. You literally cannot ruminate on the email you just sent or the traffic you just sat in when your body is processing the sharp temperature of the water.
Why? So it's a total sensory override. It snaps you into the present moment.
Precisely. You are washing off the secular world so you can step further into the sacred space with a clean slate.
Okay, so you've crossed the boundary, you've snapped your brain into the present with the water, and now you begin to walk down the main path. But the text notes you aren't walking alone. The path is flanked by these fascinating stone statues, the komainu, or lion dogs.
Yes, the fierce guardians of the shrine. And they hold a really specific philosophical key. If you look closely at the pair, you'll notice their mouths are different. One always has its mouth open, and the other has its mouth closed.
Like one is mid-roar and the other is silent.
Right. It represents a concept called a-un. The open mouth is forming the sound ah, which is the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. The closed mouth is forming the sound un, which is the last letter.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, together they represent the absolute beginning and the absolute end of the universe. It is the first inhaled breath of life and the final exhaled breath of death.
That is incredibly profound. So as you physically walk between these two statues, you are symbolically passing through the entirety of existence.
You are walking through the space between a breath. It radically scales your perspective. Whatever mundane problems you brought with you are suddenly placed within the context of the entire universe. It shrinks your ego.
It's deeply grounding. And this framing completely changes how you experience the path itself. Because this main walkway is called the Sando, and according to the guide, it's not just a walkway. Here's where it gets really interesting. It symbolically represents a birth canal.
Yes, it serves as both a literal path for prayer and a deeply symbolic representation of a mother's womb.
Wait, a birth canal. I mean, I'm thinking about traditional Western architecture. Usually, when you have a grand path leading up to a major religious or political monument, think of the Vatican or Versailles, the architecture is designed to make you feel tiny.
Very intimidating, yes.
Exactly. It's meant to be intimidating, to project massive, crushing power. So why would a shrine dedicated to a 16th century warlord want to make me feel nurtured?
Because intimidation breeds fear. And you cannot achieve genuine mental clarity or spiritual connection when your nervous system is trapped in a state of fear.
Ah, that makes so much sense.
The symbolism of the Sando comes from the belief in Amaterasu, the female sun goddess and central deity of Shinto. By likening the path to a mother's womb, the architecture forces a psychological transformation based on safety, not subjugation.
You aren't a peasant walking up to a terrifying king. You're an infant being reborn.
Exactly. Walking the Sando forces the visitor to shed whatever secular baggage they still have clinging to them. By the time you reach the end of that path, you are symbolically reborn. You are in a perfect, innocent, and completely receptive state of mind.
It's a complete deconstruction of the self before you even say a single prayer. So you emerge from the Sando totally refreshed, your ego is in check, and you're standing in front of the main shrine. Now, how do you actually engage with it? Our source document gives us the exact mechanics of connection.
The prayer ritual.
Right. First, you gently place a coin into the offering box, and they specifically recommend a 5 yen coin. Is that just a random tradition, or is there a reason for that specific coin?
There is actually a brilliant linguistic reason. The 5 yen coin in Japanese is pronounced go-in, and go-in happens to be a homophone for the Japanese phrase that means creating a good relationship.
Oh, I love that. It's like a cosmic networking fee. You aren't putting in a coin to buy a wish from a vending machine. You're just politely establishing a good relationship with the universe before you ask for anything.
Exactly. It sets a tone of mutual respect. And the document actually takes a moment to thank the visitor for their cooperation and respect for the culture by following the next steps carefully. Because after the coin, the physical choreography begins.
Right, the rhythm is very specific. You bow deeply twice. Then you clap your hands lively twice. After the claps, you put your hands together, offer your prayers, and make your wish. And finally, you finish by bowing deeply one more time. So it's 2 bows, 2 claps, pray, 1 bow.
And the precision of that ritual isn't arbitrary. The deliberate rhythm of bowing and clapping is a masterclass in kinetic mindfulness. Your body is doing the heavy lifting to keep your mind anchored.
How so? Like with the claps?
Yeah, let's break down the clap. The sharp, loud acoustic sound of a clap physically interrupts wandering thoughts. Traditionally, it's thought to draw the attention of the gods, but practically speaking, it snaps your own brain to attention.
It's the physical equivalent of snapping your fingers in front of someone's face when they're daydreaming.
Exactly. And the deep bows are just as important. A deep 90-degree bow requires core engagement and balance. You cannot rush a deep bow without physically falling over. It forces you to slow your heart rate, align your spine, and just physically submit your ego to the present moment.
Wow. So you've crossed the threshold, purified yourself with cold water, walked through a symbolic rebirth between the beginning and end of the universe, and now you've used kinetic mindfulness to anchor your body in the exact present second.
You're fully there.
And then you look into the holiest part of the sanctuary. You've done all this preparation, so what are you actually praying to?
This is the ultimate subversion of Western expectations.
Let's play a little guessing game for you listening right now. What do you think is inside that central sacred space? You might expect a massive gold statue of Toyotomi Hideyoshi wielding his katana, or maybe a beautiful ancient painting of Amaterasu. But the source gives us a great hint. It's something you use every day, probably 2 or 3 times a day.
It completely upends what we think belongs at the center of a religious site.
Time's up. The answer is a mirror. Inside the main shrine, there's a simple mirror. So what does this all mean? You aren't looking at a warlord or a deity in the clouds. You are looking squarely at yourself. It's the ultimate plot twist.
It really is. What's fascinating here is that the mirror reflects the very essence of Shinto philosophy. There is no external savior or judge sitting in that box. The guide explains that this mirror serves as a reflection of oneself, encouraging you to be acutely aware of your own behavior.
Because the mirror doesn't care if you're a CEO or a mailroom clerk. It just reflects exactly what is in front of it.
Exactly. It symbolizes absolute equality. The belief is that everything reflected in the mirror is equal, without any sense of superiority or discrimination. It is a profound statement of self-accountability.
It strips away all the ego and hierarchy. You are just a human being looking at a human being. And this tracks perfectly with the fact that the guide goes out of its way to explain that Shinto is actually not considered a religion in the traditional dogmatic sense.
Right. Unlike many major world religions, Shinto has no specific scriptures you have to memorize. There are no rigid commandments. Instead, it focuses on
Something to keep track of.
Well, 8 million in ancient Japanese simply meant an infinite number. It just means uncountable. The core belief is that divinity and spirit reside in absolutely all aspects of nature. It's a philosophy built entirely on universal gratitude and respect.
And when they say all aspects of nature, they don't just mean majestic ancient cedar trees or a beautiful mountain. The text points out that gods reside in humans, in birds, in the dirt, and here is my absolute favorite detail from the guide: they believe gods even reside in cars.
I love that detail too, because it proves that this 1,300-year-old tradition isn't just some archaic fairy tale stuck in the past. It sees divinity and spirit in modern technology.
Right.
If a car serves you, if it safely moves you and your family from one place to another, it possesses a spirit that is worthy of gratitude and respect.
Think about how that changes your mental health. If you treat your car with gratitude instead of just getting mad when it needs an oil change, you fundamentally alter your daily experience. It proves that Shinto is less about rigid dogma and more about this pervasive radical inclusivity.
And that inclusivity extends directly to people too. The guide explicitly notes that throughout history, global conflicts have constantly arisen due to differences in religion or horrific perceptions of racial superiority. But Shinto shrines embrace all religions. They will joyfully host weddings and ceremonies for people of any faith or background.
They aren't checking your credentials at the Torii gate.
Not at all. This inclusive, accepting mindset is cited as a core reflection of the Japanese way of thinking. It's the ultimate purpose of these shrines, a space designed to welcome you, purify you, and reflect your own humanity back to you.
Let's zoom out and look at the incredible journey we just mapped out. We started with the intense, secular ambition of an underdog warlord who mastered the swords of power and spirit to unite a chaotic Japan.
We did.
Then we drew a hard boundary at the Torii gate to leave that chaos behind. We used the shock of cold water at the Chozier to snap our brains into the present. We walked the space between the inhale and exhale of the lion dogs, experienced a psychological rebirth on the Sando, used kinetic mindfulness to anchor our bodies.
And finally, we looked into a mirror of absolute equality, realizing that divinity exists in everything.
It's an incredibly powerful framework.
And what's crucial to remember is that you do not need a plane ticket to Osaka to apply this. You can build your own physical transitions. You can find your own Chozuyo moments.
Like just washing your face when you get home from work.
Exactly, just to mentally wash away the noise before entering a new room. You can look at your surroundings with that inclusive, grateful mindset that the mirror teaches us.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought for you to mull over today. If Shinto teaches us that the divine exists equally in everything around us, from the oldest tree to the mundane car sitting in your driveway, how might treating your everyday objects with that exact same level of reverence completely change the way you experience your daily life?
It shatters the museum glass, doesn't it? Suddenly, the world isn't something you're just passively observing. It's an active, sacred space you're participating in.
It changes everything. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.